Hello, today's video is going to focus on a key theme from Macbeth, albeit a theme that I find very fiddly and awkward to talk about in an exam response. Now, as you can possibly tell from my goofy cartoons here, that theme is going to be the idea about fate or free will governing or controlling Macbeth's behaviour. Is his behaviour predetermined? Is he a mere puppet in the hands of dark supernatural forces? Or is he an independent, autonomous character capable of making decisions and choices and actions for himself? Now, above, that is the layout for a Section B Edexcel question on theme. It'll often be presented thus. Explore the importance of in the play. You must refer to the context of the play in your answer. And of course, they'll just paste in the key theme there. So, fate and free will here. That's what we're going to be looking at, and of course we do need to at some point address contextual factors too. So I'm going to plan one paragraph in response to this, and then we'll turn that into an honest to goodness, highfalutin, fancy damn paragraph. Right then, I think the first area we can look at to see where fate determines Macbeth's behaviour is Act 1. Because in Act 1, you've got the witches saying fair is foul and foul is fair. Bear with me. I'm putting together the bricks and mortar of my argument. It might take a while. Fair is foul and foul is fair. So what can we do with this little titchy, diddly, Minnie Mouse sized quotation? Well, first of all, that's dialogue. It'll be significant later why I'm labelling it thus. That's dialogue, that's something that's said. As I say, the witches utter this line in Act 1, Act 1, Scene 1. Later on in that act, I think it's about Act 1, Scene 3 or 4, later in Act 1, we hear Macbeth say, "So foul and fair a day I have not seen." So, foul, fair gets uttered by Macbeth. So, let's build up my argument. I'm saying then that it is not free will, but fate that governs Macbeth's behaviour, because he seems to be unwittingly echoing or parroting or aping the words of the witches, almost like they govern or control his behaviour. Apes or mimics. I'll say unwittingly, because he doesn't realise he's doing it. Unwittingly apes the witch's dialogue, the witch's words. And that's showing that his actions are kind of predetermined. He doesn't have much control over them. Actions are controlled by supernatural forces, by evil. Lovely. We've got a nice solid basis for a response there. Dialogue is used to present the theme of fate. There's our evidence. The witches and Macbeth play about this fair is foul idea, and that shows that unwittingly, he doesn't realise this, but he is under the influence, he is manipulated like a puppet by the witches. Lovely. Right, what's the next thing we've got to do? Well, got to make sure I'm linking my ideas to context. And fascinating story that my dad insists is true. I'm not so sure about it. He says that Shakespeare died on his birthday because he'd gone out for a few beers, got drunk, staggered home, started hammering at the door, let me in. The wife, Anne Hathaway, was having none of it, said, "You can come in when you've sobered up." It was one of the coldest nights of the year, alas, and Shakespeare died on the doorstep. Now, that always elicits a rueful chuckle from me, that story. It's context, sure. Not sure it's relevant, though. We can't apply it. It may dazzle the hell out of people at cocktail parties. There's no way we can link it to our ideas here on the ideas of fate. So we have to make sure it's imperative that whatever we're talking about in relation to context is relevant. We've got an easy win, though, because we're dealing with the witches. And I think we can say that the witches, it would have been a kind of a fear of the Jacobean era or Shakespeare's time. People would have been believing in the malign, evil influence of witches. They generally thought that black magic was a thing. To us, it's utter flim-flam. It was a more credulous age. So, Jacobean era, people generally believed, generally feared anxieties about witches' evil influence. But I believe we can develop this contextual point, because James I, who was on the throne, I think it's fair to say he was preoccupied, interested, obsessed even with witches. Obsessed with witchcraft, to the extent that he wrote a couple of books, I think. Now that's not too shabby in terms of context, but I think we can go even deeper here and telegraph with shrieking lucidity what high-level students we are. Because I would say, why is Shakespeare bothering to write about witches? Well, what he's doing here, James I is basically his boss. And sorry, when you hit the world of work, you've got to please the boss. So you could argue that by shoehorning or squeezing witches into the narrative of Macbeth, the story of Macbeth, what Macbeth is doing there, I don't want to use the word brown-nosing, but he's basically pandering to or indulging or trying to please his patron, because James I was the boss, the paymaster, the patron of Shakespeare's acting company, the King's Men. So we're going to say that this focus on witchcraft is Shakespeare pandering to or trying to please. Shakespeare panders to his patron's interests. He's kind of tailoring his material to his target audience, to his paymaster, to the market, if you will. There we go. So we've got a solid plan there. Let's now start turning that into the sort of gorgeous paragraphs that are going to be so sweet they give an examiner toothache. Right, let's grab a pen. Let's get stuck in. In Act 1, you notice I mentioned dialogue before. That's because I'm just going to use that here in this point to launch into our evidence. In Act 1, Shakespeare uses dialogue to, let's look at that question. I'm looking at fate here, aren't I? To present ideas about fate. Lovely. Right, let's tonk in that evidence now. Now, it's a bit of a double yoker, isn't it? Because, of course, Macbeth and the witches are talking about fairies foul here. So I'll tread carefully here. I want to control my sentences. How can I phrase this? After the witches, state fair is foul. At the start of the play, at 1C1. Comma. Macbeth asserts. Macbeth describes the day as fair and foul. So foul and fair a day I have not seen. I can't remember if it's fair and foul or foul and fair. It doesn't matter. I guarantee the examiner's going to cut you a bit of slack there. He appreciates you haven't got a copy of the text in front of you. But we've certainly got the gist of it there. Describes the day as fair and foul. So I've got my point. Dialogue presents the theme of fate. And I've got my evidence lucidly embedded into my own sentence. Now it's time to explain. A quick look at that question. A word that always makes my teeth itch, that really gets on my nerves, is importance. How can I say something that's important? Normally I'd say here, this compellingly conveys to the reader, or this engagingly emphasises to the reader, successfully suggests. I'm a big fan of alliteration, as you can tell. I'm just going to deal with this nasty word. We're going to box around it thus. So, this is important. So I've got that important problem sorted. This is important because it engagingly emphasises to the examiner, sorry, the reader. As you know, the examiner's got a really big bee in his bonnet. He gets very uppity if you don't cite or mention the reader. This is important because it engagingly emphasises to the reader so I'm developing my point that this is fate at work here. How can I say this? That to the reader, that Macbeth's behaviour is controlled, regulated, marshalled, governed. That's a nice verb, Mr. Taylor. You should be an English teacher or something. Is governed by supernatural forces. Supernatural forces. And just a colon, just to explain something, clarify the link to fate. It appears predestined. Predestined means it's kind of fated. It appears predestined. Lovely. So we've got that solid analysis there of fate in this scene. Macbeth appearing as a victim of fate. Now, of course, I have to link to context. A nice verb to emphasise to the examiner that what you're writing in terms of context is relevant is a word like this reflects, or this echoes, or this mirrors. Just to start that context to assert explicitly that it does dovetail, it does link with what you've been honking on about in the main body of the text. Let's try that now. This echoes the Jacobean fear, Jacobean era's fear, I guess, anxiety about witchcraft, about witches. Witches are beings that were perceived as having evil powers. Okay, so I've linked that to context, but don't forget we've got that secondary and third idea, James's obsession and Shakespeare pandering to that obsession. So we'll tonk that in here. Moreover is a nice connective when you add in extra stuff. Moreover, James the First was obsessed with witchcraft. Going so far as to pen or write books on the subject. And then we'll casually toss in our money shot here that Shakespeare then talk about this stuff is merely pandering to his patron. Shakespeare then panders to his patron by incorporating, including, foregrounding, including. Witches into Macbeth's narrative. I mean Macbeth as a play there, so I'll put that in inverted commas. Macbeth's narrative or plot. Boom. And there you have it. Let's just clarify what we've done. We've taken an idea. We thought about whether the quotation is dialogue or action description. We've linked it to fate and developed our argument there. It's fate because it shows Macbeth is not controlled by himself but by forces external to his influence. We've linked that to context lucidly, and then we've turned that into a barnstorming paragraph. Okay, if you knock out something like that in the exam, that is a case of welcome to level 9'sville. Welcome to A Starsville, baby. Population U. What I'm going to do now, because I am the gift that keeps on giving, I'm just going to superimpose here, kind of like real low-level CGI stuff, a plan for other ideas that you could turn into paragraphs in response to this question on fate and free will. I'm not saying they're going to give me the next directing gig for Toy Story. It's not going to be some fantastic CGI, but it will give you an idea, colour-coded, of what to do in the exam in response to this question. So, all the best in the exam hall. I'm sure you're going to smash it. And yeah, knock 'em dead.